Well, hi, everyone. This is the Brad Free Report, Kentucky Derby Edition 2018, one of the more compelling Kentucky Derbies that we've seen in quite some time. Any one of 8 to 10 runners can win this race. Here's a look at the field. And while we're looking at the field, I want to talk a little bit about the morning line favorite, Justify. I have nothing but respect for this undefeated 3-year-old colt trained by Bob Baffert. He's the 3-to-1 favorite on the morning line. I'm curious about his lack of seasoning, and I just wonder if it's just too much too soon. He reminds me of a couple of horses that have run in the Kentucky Derby in recent years. In 2008, Big Brown went into the Kentucky Derby 3 for 3 with a maiden win, an allowance win, and a graded stakes win, and he romped in the Kentucky Derby. So it's not impossible for a lightly raced colt to win this race, but Justify also reminds me of another Bob Baffert starter back in 2001 when Congaree went into the Kentucky Derby with a maiden win, an allowance win, and a graded stakes win. He finished third. He actually ran super in defeat. But I wonder if that lack of seasoning may have caught up a little bit with Congaree. He went after a very fast pace, and he wilted and finished third. So I have nothing but respect for Justify. And when it comes to trainer Bob Baffert, I have learned over the years, handicapping in California, that second-guessing Baffert is not usually a very good idea. Baffert has a method to his madness, so to speak. And when you second-guess Baffert, you are asking for trouble. I'm not going to second-guess Baffert. I'm not going to second-guess Justify. Ultimately, it comes down to price. I do not want any part of 3-to-1 on a very talented 3-year-old. And if Justify wins the Kentucky Derby, congratulations. He's actually my 4th preference in the race, and I put him on my top 4 just to save me from being embarrassed if he does happen to win the race. But I'll be betting against Justify, who very well could be the most talented 3-year-old in the 2018 crop. So let's start off talking about my 3rd preference in the 2018 Kentucky Derby, and he delivered an emphatic victory last time out in the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. Now, the Wood Memorial, it's been a while since we've had a Kentucky Derby winner come out of the Wood, way back in 2003 when Funnyside won. But let's take a look at Vino Rosso, who is winning a gritty game victory in the Wood Memorial. Vino Rosso, he had a very strange winter down at Tampa Bay Downs. They put blinkers on him 2 starts back. He kind of ran poorly. And in hindsight, trainer Todd Pletcher believes that this son of Curlin may not have cared for the Tampa Bay racetrack. Well, he turned it around in the Wood Memorial, and I like Vino Rosso to hit the board. He has a closing style. The pace should not matter. The pace should be legitimate. And Vino Rosso, a very serious contender, my 3rd preference in the Kentucky Derby. My 2nd preference is trying to do something that has never been done, and 13 horses have tried. That is, ship from the UAE Derby into the Kentucky Derby. None of the previous 13 horses so much as hit the board, coming from Dubai to Louisville. But the manner in which Mendelssohn trounced the UAE Derby field suggests that this horse, this sibling to Beholder and Into Mischief, could be any type of racehorse. That's Mendelssohn, a son of Scat Daddy, winning the UAE Derby by more than 18 lengths. This is an impressive victory. I know that the speed bias was in his favor, and the field behind him was perhaps a little bit suspect, but Mendelssohn, in winning by more than 18 lengths with a triple-digit speed figure, projected Beyer speed figure, this guy is fast. We'll get a read on the UAE Derby on Friday in Kentucky Oaks. The runner-up from the UAE Derby, a filly by the name of Raya, now trained by Baffert, she ran the Kentucky Oaks, and if she runs well, it can only validate the form of Mendelssohn. He was terrific in victory, bias or not. Okay, my top selection in the 2018 Kentucky Derby. Well, he comes out of a win in the Bluegrass Stakes. He's the 2-year-old champion of 2017, making the 3rd start of his campaign, and his 2nd start of 2018 was in the Bluegrass Stakes. You know who I'm referring to. His name is Good Magic, trained by Chad Brown. And Good Magic, when you watch the Bluegrass Stakes, you can't really walk away from this race and go, wow, there's the Kentucky Derby winner. No, this was kind of a grinding, even effort, but it was a step in the right direction. Only the second start of his campaign, and reading Mike Welsh's Clocker report from Louisville, Kentucky, watching Good Magic train, Mike Welsh has nothing but good things to say about Good Magic. The third start of his campaign in 2017 was his best race. I expect the third start of his 2018 campaign to be his best race. He's versatile. Chad Brown's on fire. And I like Good Magic to win the Kentucky Derby. Now, I don't think it is more than a 4-horse race. There are several horses I did not mention, and they're all good. Audible, Hofburg, Bolt D'Oro, Magnum Moon. These are all legitimate contenders. But only one winner is likely to emerge, barring a dead heat. And my top selections, Good Magic, Mendelssohn, Vino Rosso, and Justify in that order. So let's talk a little bit. We always talk about who's going to win the Kentucky Derby. Why don't we talk a little bit about who finishes second in the Kentucky Derby? And over the last 17 years, there have been 7 Kentucky Derby runners-up that went to post at 20-1 or higher. And some of these long shot runners-up in the Derby, they keyed some pretty nice exactas. Let's take a look at the chart of the recent Derby runners-up at big prices. Looking at Lee was 33-1, Commanding Curve and Golden Soul, a couple of Dallas Stewart trainees. So 3 of the last 5 years in the Kentucky Derby, the runner-up started at 30-1 or higher. 2006, Bluegrass Cat, Closing Argument, Proud Citizen, Invisible Ink. You know, even when Looking at Lucky won the race last year, underneath the favorite, Always Dreaming, the $2 exacta paid $336. In 2014, if you liked California Chrome and you could come up with Commanding Curve in the exacta, a $340 exacta, and even back in 2013, when the favorite Orb won the Derby, Golden Soul at 34-1 was underneath a $981 exacta payoff. My point is this: you can still make money in the Kentucky Derby even if you like the favorite. Let's say you do believe that Justify is a cinch. I don't. But maybe one of the bombers can come along and turn the Kentucky Derby exacta into something memorable. Here's another quick, before we talk about some of those potential bombers, it's interesting to note that over the same time frame in which 7 Derby runners-up were 20-1 or higher, during that time, only 2 Derby third-place finishers started at more than 20-1. I found that a little curious. It might be a statistical aberration, but more long shots have finished second in the Kentucky Derby the last 17 years than have finished third. Very weird. Okay, are there some potential bombers this year in the Kentucky Derby? Maybe can finish second. You better believe there are. There are 5 that I could identify. You might come up with a couple more. Let's take a look at the list of potential bombers. How about Flame Away? If you like Good Magic like I do, you at least have to respect Flame Away. He finished second to Good Magic in the Wood Memorial. Flame Away with a forwardly placed running style. Who knows? Maybe he'll outrun his 30-1 odds. My boy Jack, he is a deep closer. He's a 2-time Grade 3 winner. Why couldn't he slop up and finish second? How about Enticed? I like Vino Rosso as one of my top 3 selections. Well, Enticed finished second in the Wood Memorial. Could he hit the board? Could he finish second, Enticed? You better believe it. Solimini, he is still a work in progress. Watching his last couple workouts, it seems that he's starting to figure it out. Runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year. One of these days, the light bulb is going to go on and Solimini will outrun his odds. And then Combatant, is he really going to be 50-1? Doesn't he look a lot like Looking at Lee? Both colts trained by Steve Asmussen, both a little bit under the radar with the same running style. Looking at Lee came from out of the clouds, and so does Combatant. So those are 5 potential bombers to maybe complete the exacta. My top selections: Good Magic, Mendelssohn, Vino Rosso, and yes, I respect Justify. And believe me, if Justify wins the race and either Flame Away, My Boy Jack, Enticed, Solimini, or Combatant finishes second, I will be holding a $2 exacta play. That's my Kentucky Derby 2018 analysis. Good Magic, my prediction to win the Derby. I'm Brad Free. Talk to you next time.